Well, hello all. If you found this channel, that means there's something wrong with you. Well, and it also means that you're one of the cool kids. So thank you for joining RPG with DBJ. Today's the end of our week-long theme, talking about constructs, uh, golems, automatons, artificial beings in the tabletop RPG community and setting, and how do we use them? How do we want to use them? We love ourselves some Warforged and Cyborgs and things of that nature, and thought we'd take a week and talk about it because we take a week to talk about damn near all that stuff. So all the creatives and community and kind folks out there are always welcome on the channel, as well as the hey kitty, the classmates and collegiates, because this show is simulcast over on Discord, specifically Fantasy Grounds College Discord. So if you join Fantasy Grounds College and go over to them, you can hang out with the faculty over there and some of the classmates. But if you go down the left and slide all the way down to the boiler room, that's where we, the cool kids, are hanging out. So we're going to end this series talking about got to talk about drones and cyborgs and androids and that kind of thing, because today is Future Friday. We got to talk about those things. And I'm going to start it out with the one thing we hadn't talked about or barely touched upon during the rest of the week, because we kind of default to the world's most popular role-playing game, although it's pretty agnostic. Today, I think we should talk about the people who are constructs and don't realize that they are. Darius, what's going on? Long time no hear. Hey. For those who don't know, sorry, segue. Darius, Jana, and I had done a number of episodes on the channel for the Creators Conclave, and so although some may say they're a little bit dated, we deep dived on some current topical issues and turn them into role-playing fodder, which I think is a really cool idea. And I hope you're doing all right there, dude. So there are having us talk about yep, absolutely, Pillar. Get your replicants out. Thank you, Jenny. Hey, what's going on? The idea behind constructs and sentient beings. I mean, we talked about having our brains downloaded into these creatures, having citizens volunteer to be transformed. But now, yeah, Darius says hidden synths, my favorite idea. Yeah, if you guys are not familiar with, and we've seen this in a number of situations, but if you aren't familiar with here in the States, it's an HBO show called Westworld. Wow. That was a strange non sequitur. Westworld is based on I think it's a movie made in like the early 70s or something, about, oh yeah, Dead Man's like killer drones. He threw in a YouTube video of that. The idea behind West Wing was there was a place where there were artificial beings that believed that they lived in a Western styled, old West styled world, 6-shooters and horses and cattle ranchers and that kind of thing. And people could visit there from our world and go there and have fun. And something happens and it gets out of control, and the artificial beings now want their freedom, or at least want to know what the hell's going on. I'm not familiar with do shadows from IS count? Be a little, throw something in there, be a little bit more specific with your pop culture reference. So the idea of like drones and cyborgs and synths and things, not knowing, not knowing that they are artificial, or not understanding where they came from, or even a normal human being like ourselves. Yeah. um yeah, you can't, yeah, abbreviations, you can't do that, because you can be pulling abbreviations from anywhere. But I hear you. The idea behind it, of this idea, also super heavily falls into the realm of, like, am I human? Am I sentient? Do I have freedom? Some would say that the humans that go into the Westworld park feel that they're free, but they are escaping their own reality of the humdrum of their own lives to go into this place. And of course, many of these artificial beings are killed over and over again. People go there and use and abuse their artificial bodies. And the what I love about the modern version of this Westworld is that they they basically 3D printed the androids, so they're not exactly mechanical. I mean, they bleed and they have muscle structures and bone and that kind of thing. So they're not exactly mechanical. They're more like soft tissue artificials, you know. Deadman puts in Wikipedia for Westworld TV series. It's an American science fiction Western television series created by Jonathan Nolan, who is, I believe, the brother of the director Nolan, that's done so many movies, excellent movies. It's produced by HBO, based on a 1973 film of the same name, written and directed by Michael Crichton, and to a lesser extent, the film's 1976 sequel, Future World. I didn't forgot there was a sequel to that. The story takes place in Westworld, a fictional, technologically advanced, Wild West-themed amusement park populated by android hosts. The park caters to high-paying guests who may indulge their wildest fantasies within the park without fear of retaliation from the hosts, who are prevented by their programming from harming humans. And hilarity ensues, because that doesn't last too long. Yeah, yeah. And of course, Pelora says, "Are we human or are we dancers?" And Tesla says, "Why not both?" And the age old question of, what is the meaning of life? Are we human? Are we in a simulation? Those things. It's possible that through artificial means, we may create AI that might be thinking to themselves the same thing. And then what is our relationship to these artificial beings when they desire to have freedom and to have their own lives, especially when they've been programmed to perform certain functions or to believe certain things? I mean, we brought up previously, what if you find out that all of your memories, your entire life, is artificial, that it was just picked off of a shelf and implanted into your brain, all of your childhood and your desires, your thoughts and dreams, I always wished I could do these things, and you come to find out that it was just some random programmer that was bored and picked off some low shelf ideas. You're not even worth top shelf imagination. Janie says, they used to be mechanical, but as technology evolved, it became cheaper to 3D print biodroids. And I can imagine, by the 3D printing process, that we're not talking simply the classic Borg, right? We're not simply this even goes beyond the classic Terminator series, where Terminator is encased in living flesh, but the interior, so the external is living flesh, warm blood, looks like they have eyes, and by human standards, you'd shake their hand, might be kind of stiff, but still soft and warm, like a human being would be. And of course, they couldn't travel through time except unless it was a biological body, which is why they always came through naked, bucket naked. But the internals were, of course, the classic skeletal, chromed out, piston bodied individual. And so Yeah. So there also is the idea of, how closely related to humanity would these artificial beings be in this setting? Especially if they're 3D printed. Much like I suppose the androids from the Alien movie, where they had like the milky white blood instead of like red blood for a human being, would be in a analogous to that, where all the internal functions might be similar to a human being with a heart and organs and such, but the chemicals that and the processes that happen inside are completely artificially made with maybe different colors of I suppose if their organs were spilled out. Yeah, Rickard. Yeah, the milk blood. Yep. It might be equal but different, So in this context of using like synths and such, where do these people stand? And yeah, JD says more human than human, especially if the the artificial people have come to a revelation about their lives that that the decadent actions of the human beings have not. It almost seems as if, especially according to that Westworld setting, that the humans have regressed and the androids have progressed in their relationship to themselves and to the rest of the world. And who is to say that, in this particular, or whether if you intend on using this in your setting, that it's a perfectly logical reason to have humanity evolve. I mean, devolve and the artificial beings evolve past humanity in terms of how they act towards things. And in many ways, we treat our artificial creations this way. We don't give our. I mean, sure, we might name our car and talk to our mechanical. I'm not going to say the name. Our mechanical devices that if we call their name, they answer us. But we don't really think of them as a living being, right? Our watches and phones and such. But the more the closer they become to having actions and reactions that we deem to be human-like, I believe that will be the point at which we will consider them to be human-like. I think in many ways we kind of, there's this idea that the public thinks that there's going to be one specific moment in which there's a light switch and we go, oh, they're just like us. And the true thing may be that it might be so subtle that at some point we'll just consider them to be humanoid without us necessarily going through a song and dance of, yesterday we didn't think they were human, but today they are. It just might be more and more of the population starts embracing them, and the portion of the population that still has that uncanny valley effect in their brain, and just it's like something that just throws them off and they just don't trust them. I think those will be the ones that are going to be the anti Borg types. Yeah, I hate that. Yeah, more human than human, white zombie. Yeah. um yep. And Rickard says, I mean, wasn't that what Blade Runner and Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep was about? It absolutely was, because here's this here are these artificial beings who have essentially they have a very short lifespan. I don't remember how long it was in Blade Runner, but it wasn't very long. They basically were extruded as adults, and you get a couple of years, maybe a couple of 7 years or so, and after that point, you start to break down. Maybe there's physical and psychological mechanisms, and they're like, listen, we need Blade Runners. These individuals, it comes across as detectives, but essentially they're like bounty hunters and assassins to kill the replicants and blow them away. And the replicants are like, wait a minute, you fully formed me as a living, breathing human being, and that's what I consider myself, and you're throwing me away with the garbage. Like, what the hell is this about? And so, of course, they try to escape and go on the run. They're like, I just want a normal life. Even if my life is short, I have, dreams and such. So Yeah. Plurist, like, damn toasters running around murdering folks. Yeah. And of course, we can sit here and decide, like, well, I think they're artificial, I think they're human. But the best part about it is, in the setting, you don't even have to make that distinction. You can just say it just exists. And based on the opinions of the PCs, the opinions of NPCs, and opinions of the various factions and nations and habitats in your world, they can all have different opinions as to how much these people are embraced and rejected inside the world. Now, uh, Rickard says, was also referring to that the replicants behaved more humane than the humans were in the story, and that is the case, right? They had the replicants had um, they it seemed to them that the world was not black and white, and at the very end of, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen Blade Runner, and a 30-year-old 35-year-old movie or whatever, in Blade Runner, one of the replicants, after Deckard blows away a bunch of the replicants friends slash family, you know the replicant he's about to try to kill, you know, played by Rutger Hauer, it could easily kill him. And instead, he basically has a philosophical conversation with the man, like, no matter how short my life is, I I just want you to consider me human. And so in return, I don't want to kill you. I don't want your life means something. And I want you to look at me as if my life means something. Essentially, that's what it boils down to. And that can be a very sobering, sobering event, especially if the public has put in people's minds that these people are artificial, and they're just throw them into recycling bins because they're going to take us over. As a matter of fact, we're kind of going through that in modern day, right? There are people who have such an attachment to their genetic heritage that they're afraid that their specific genetics are going to get wiped out by the rest of us, And so imagining an army, a society of artificial beings that have no genetic heritage to humanity at all, and being phased out, it's scary for people. That's scary that their legacy will disappear and that their importance in the world. We all want to feel like we have an impact and we're important. And so absolutely. Pelor says even Star Wars has some of this. Some people treat droids as friends, others as tools, restraining bolts and such. Yep. The classic line from Star Wars: A New Hope. We don't serve droids in here. You got to keep them outside, right? And of course, we can always add in the fact that, let's say, artificial beings or droids maybe were part of or programmed to be part of a war, or were part of a draconian dictatorship and such. So people may have a predisposed hatred of them for whatever reasons. And it could be pretty difficult to look at. To last week, they were programmed to kill you, and this week, oh, we don't have that. We don't have that limitation in our programming anymore. Or like you said, the restraining bolts have been removed from our chest plates or something, and the human beings are like, yeah, right. How easy would it be for me to find a black market restraining bolt and just reprogram your ass, right? You might turn on me any minute now. I don't know what's going on in your head. I can't see what you're thinking. You don't have human facial features and desires and stuff. We gave that to you, and now that you've broken your programming, I don't know what you want. I mean, that's very easy to go down that path of you're the other, I hate you. Rickard says that in the most epic ad lib in cinematic history. I forgot about which ad lib that was. Jenny says a glitch in the programming. Now, some would say that human beings are full of glitches, and maybe we are the maybe we are the problem the mistake and the artificial beings are the tear rain made up on the spot. Oh, in Blade Runner, was that ad-libbed? I did not know that. I did not know that. Yeah, oh, that's sweet. Well, thank you very much. For you guys who don't know, and I'm sure you can call this up on just that one scene on YouTube. I can. That's the speech done by Rutger Hauer as a replicant, as he basically has, you know, he could, with the flick of his fingers, kill Deckard, and has a little speech in that movie that was ad-libbed. And that's a credit to the actors who embody the role and are able to physically and mentally embody them and speak in a manner in um, which both which best emulates who they are and what they are. So thank you, Dead Man. I hope you are finding the little YouTube thing here. You could put it in the Fantasy Grounds College Discord down here in the boiler room. Now, we're talking about synths, so let's give some space for drones, and we did do a whole series on actual drones, so we don't have to hit that too hard, and cyborgs as well. HK, the droid from Star Wars, the Old Republic, was HK-51. The Old Republic? I don't remember that. I don't remember the series number. HK-51. This was brought up before about if you were to take a molecule from you and replace it with an artificial one and do that over and over again. Take one molecule from your body, give you an artificial one. Take a molecule, replace. How long is it until you are no longer you and you are a completely artificial person and you no longer represent yourself? Like, at what point, where's the split point? Is it 50-50? Is it if your brain has been replaced, and it's the issue would be when it comes to being like a cyborg or something of that nature, is like, how many mechanical parts does it take before you are no longer you? Which modes of thinking, which part of your senses, which organs would have to be replaced, and how many of them, both internally and externally, do we consider you to be a cyborg, to be not part of the human race any longer? Rickard says part of it was written, but it was like half as long. So, he probably edited it down for. Yes, he ad-libbed it by having the written content and during that scene, and then decided to edit it as part of the scene and probably added some things in there and twisted around and stuff, which is actually still kind of cool, man. It's still kind of cool. Janny says, I think the bigger question is, what would it do to your sense of identity? And that's the thing. That's the biggest question. Like, who am I anymore? I mean, today we do have artificial organs and limbs. And if you were to lay out just today, you lay out every single artificial organ and limb, artificial skin, plastic plates and replacement parts for bones. We have necrotic things given to us from both living donors and dead bodies, whether it's bone and skin and eyes and that kind of thing. Is it the brain that makes us who we are? And some would say, well, scientists would say, well, technically no, because if you could replace a major part of your brain with something artificial that still operates the same way, the person would still be the same person. Jenny says, if you could swap every body part or maybe change your voice, I believe many would lose their minds. And even today, we have people who suffer from body dysmorphia, who want to seek to cut off their own limbs because they don't feel like they fit inside of their body. And I don't mean gender wise. I mean, there are people who look at their body and they're like, why am I trapped in this thing? And will have sought to literally take a bladed weapon bladed device and cut off their own limbs because they don't feel like they fit into their body. Now, we could claim that that could flow into gender identity issues as well. I can't speak on the truth of that because I'd be speaking on something I have no idea about. But there would be plenty of people who, if they woke up and looked in the mirror and found out that they didn't look like themselves any longer, that they would be driven insane, that they would begin to lose touch with who they were and how they are. I'm surprised people who, some famous people who've had tremendous amounts of plastic surgery and such, I'm surprised many of them haven't looked in the mirror and realized, like, that doesn't look like the same person anymore. Like, who the hell am I? Yeah. Rickard says the tears in the rain bit was not in the script, though, about Blade Runner. Well, thank you. Plurus is getting back to the beginning to where dreams may come. Yeah, where I'm sure, even if, and this is actually in the game mechanics of Eclipse Phase, and possibly in some of the other games where people have a cortical stack, their whole neurological history is recorded into the cortical stack, and that information is just transferred over to, you could either beam or take the cortical stack physically and place it inside of another being, and then boom, once it's activated, you are yourself, but you're inside of another body. And there are rules for people who including PCs that suffer psychological trauma, suffer loss of sanity for being inside of another body, whether it's mechanical or not. And it gets even worse if you are a normal human inside of, like, a Nova Crab, Nova Crab synthetic body, or just a off the shelf rental case body and such. You could really drive people insane, and that's a great limiting factor too, game wise. So you got to throw something like that in there as well. Otherwise, PCs would just go around like copying themselves forever and ever. Yeah, or Janie says, actually, it's a perfect copy of you. You died, which Total Recall, a book called Voice of the Whirlwind. There's a number of things. I mean, imagine if you woke up and you're like, man, I'm a little groggy. Boy, things look different. And then all of a sudden there's a message from you to tell you that someone murdered you and you have to find out who the killer is. It's been 12 years, or, I think in an Altered Carbon, it was like, you've been down 150 years. You're going to have to figure out what the hell's been going on, and spoiler alert for Altered Carbon. I don't want to give too much away, but, the main character wakes up and it's just like, I wonder where my sister is. And come to find out, his sister's been hanging around him the whole time because she's been popping from body to body. Sorry if I gave a spoiler away, but look, if you wanted to watch Altered Carbon, you should have done it already. I'm just picking with you, but that is the case, right? We as the PCs are like, this is cool. I can be anybody I want to be, and we don't think about the NPCs doing the exact same thing, maybe spying on them as, the old lady that makes the pastries down the street, and she's also a security guard, and she's also one of your old teachers, and she might also be a love interest. I mean, the NPC might also be hiding as a love interest as well. That puts a new spin on stalking if you could be in different bodies, especially mechanical ones that people think as secondary citizens, and don't give them the time of day. They're like, oh, it's just one of those androids, whatever. And very much can be an issue. I suppose it would be the equivalent of a very rich, arrogant individual who's surrounded by servants and such, and gets to the point that they're just furniture, and ignoring them and having conversations that you normally wouldn't have in front of other people. Pelora says, I would faster lose my mind by not changing things. Changing your voice isn't too hard. You lose or gain accents. It's not so different. Well, it may not be so. Each person has their own reactions, right? For some people, you're like, it's not so different. For example, my voice actually changes, if some of you have noticed, during some of these live streams, because my end of the world, I get up at 5:30 in the morning, and I start get things ready, and I start to, start talking random things to get my voice lubricated and exercised. And at some point, my vocal cords will wake up. So my voice changes actually from the beginning to the end of the live streams, which in and of itself might throw some people off, especially if they wake up and they're like, why do I sound different? My voice is higher or lower, and my body feels funky, especially if your center of gravity starts to change, and your skin tone is different and your age is different. I could see insanity happening to a sizable, if not a large percentage of the population. I mean, if you start talking between 1 and 10% of the population suffering from body dysmorphia, that's a huge chunk of people. 10 billion people, 10% is a billion people. So yeah, I'm with you. And I hear the subtext, Pelora, you're all right with me. Rickard says, I haven't because I couldn't get past how much they changed. The sister does not exist in the book. Oh, in the Altered Carbon television show, yeah, the sister who's just as badass as the main character in Altered Carbon, and the reveal that she's been hanging around this entire time as different people. Yeah, Pelor says people always need something to hate. I'm pretty sure it's just baked in. I have no doubt that is a mantra that we've held so closely. For some reason, we like to think of ourselves as to control our environment because we have so many fears and we are such fragile people that we need to exert control over others. And the easiest way to do that is to pick a group of people and put them underneath our feet. And we love to do that. It's why some people would say that there's animal cruelty is a method of us being able to exert control over the environment. There are people who are just avid destroyers of things, and they love to destroy property and such, and that's their way of exerting control. And then there's others who like to destroy lives, and exerting that control over others. I think it's a subconscious method of making us feel better about the world, that, at least this part of living is a thing that I have control over. I have utter control over its life and death and creation and destruction. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate, but I believe you're absolutely right. It's a truism. So how does that extend to artificial beings? I mean, there was a period in history where having handicaps you were looked down upon, right? And then over time, we have advanced to the point where someone with an artificial limb, or blind or deaf, or having other physical and or psychological, more physical than psychological deformities or injuries and such, that those people were like, oh, well, I at one point, maybe I'll ask this person about what they've gone through, or if they're in a wheelchair, you just go, yeah, they're in a wheelchair. Anyway, what do you want? I'm here to serve you. What would you like to eat? I could care less whether you're in a wheelchair or not, right? So, but the distinction between whether we are like artificial beings or not, it might get to that point where are we using artificial synthetic bodies to help people who have suffered certain types of injuries or trauma? Maybe are we at the point where people go on vacation and rent artificial bodies, and so there's like a big rental placard put on their chest and back or something, like, oh, I always wanted to visit Mons Olympus, but I can't afford to go travel there physically, but I can beam my mind. Thanks for the coffee there, Fat Ninja. So that's a possibility. There may also be like in Eclipse phase, they have the clanking masses where they're looked at as like secondary citizens. Like some people might look at them like, oh, look at you, poor little artificial body. Aren't you just a poor little helpless thing? That's a they've embraced the cultural idea that being in a completely artificial body makes you a second class citizen, to the point that yes, the artificial beings could uprise and just be like, wait a minute, I live forever. I've got super strength. I can delete my physical, I can delete my physical pain receptors, making me literally your master. And yet the clanking masses are still held under the thumb of the biologics in the setting of eclipse phase, and that's a cultural thing. That's not a physical thing, it's a cultural thing, by making people feel that they're less than human because they can't afford these super slick high tech biological bodies with all these enhancements in them. So I think that's a very cool way to show how powerful society and civilization can be in terms of placing people into different social strata, because I'm sure there's plenty of artificial beings that are like, I can't wait. I've been saving up all of my money. And once I get past this, 68 years of servitude, I'll be able to get back into my original human body. And I can't wait. And other people are like, we're going to uprise. We're going to get weapons and take them down. And I'm sure the person who's been saving their money and time and stuff is like, you ain't going to ruin this for me. I ain't joining you. They give me my own, I earn credits so I can go into like a virtual reality world, on my off time. I am not picking up a weapon with you guys, and so they may not be of a single mind, unlike the Borg in Star Trek. If everyone has their own minds, but they're hanging around these artificial bodies, yeah, that may be there may be many goals, and maybe the trauma of being in an artificial body and the things that go with it, right? Do you need a bed to sleep in? Not really. You can just shut down and stand in a corner somewhere, right? Or plug yourself into a recharge station. But maybe artificial beings are losing. If a human brain was put into an artificial body, maybe you start to lose your attachments or crave those attachments of wearing clothing and sleeping and eating and going to museums and seeing artwork and sculptures, or going to the movies, or having drinks with friends, or dancing, or maybe even just simple the subtlety of simple human contact, just holding someone's hand or hugging them or getting a kiss on the cheek or brushing your hair or, shaving. Maybe there are these little things, these little idiosyncratic things that we take for granted as a human, that if you're put into an artificial body, you lose that. Or what might be a cool thing is you take those things with you. My elbow itches, and people are looking at you like, you're a mechanical being. You don't get itches. Yeah, but my arm still itches. Or or the cyborg that walks around with the unlit cigar because they just like smoking cigars, but they can't smoke it, so they just have the cigar just hanging off the side of their face and in their fingers and stuff, because it's a throwback to something that they enjoyed and whatnot. Maybe even the idea of keeping hold of their own gender, or picking a gender. They're like, you know what, I think I'm going to be female, and they just dress and act and change their vocal. They like adjusting the presets on your phone. They're like, can you go to the Android store, like, could you adjust the presets? I want more of a feminine voice. Oh, we've got 37 to pick from. Just go over there and pick one. They're pretty cheap, only a couple of credits. They're like, thanks a lot, and listening, hitting the button and listening to them, like, does this no, a little deeper, no, a little more high pitch. Yeah, number 27. I like that one. Rickard says, yeah, as far as I know, they made her up just for the show, and that irks me something fierce, which is why I want to read the remaining books to see if she is in them. Well, come on, Rickard. Isn't that a truism of everybody that's like, the book is better? The book's always better. Books books are better because the movie in your brain, there's nothing that can compare to the story that's in your brain, right? That's since the advent of the moving pictures, the books have always been better. You books give you internal dialogue. Books give you um, a the images of each individual's perspectives. And yes, I hear you. Like, I don't like it when you adapt something and make something up that has nothing to do with the original, except for the fact that everything is adapted. So the fact that you have them both, the limitation is us because we have both that are close to each other, right? It's like a recipe. Someone can change a recipe that doesn't ruin the first recipe and doesn't mean the second recipe is bad either. It's like, oh well, I had nutmeg and cinnamon to my recipe. Okay. It's different. But that's always been a truism. I read the book and I don't like the fact they changed the book. Well, in a visual medium, you have to adapt things. Otherwise, many people have tried to attempt to make movies that are an exact duplicate of books, and they're terrible. They're absolutely terrible. You can't do it. You have to adapt things because if you don't, we don't we don't follow the protagonist. We don't follow the storyline. You have to sell things. Unlike a book, you have to sell a TV show or a movie or something like that. You have to sell it to people, whether they're sexy looking individuals that are in the movie, whether it's actors and actresses that are well known, whether it's a director that's known for a certain pacing, or a cinematographer that's known to use certain colors or frameworks and stuff. So yeah, screenwriting is a tricky business. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear you, but it's a it's not like you're saying something that we all don't it's like, oh, uh, they changed this thing that I like. It's whatever. I hear you, but I mean to say that as in, we could say that about so many things, right? All of our favorite intellectual properties get adapted for other purposes, and we're just like, why did they change the music? Why did they, to my favorite singer sang this song? Why did this individual redo this song? It sucks. It's the same thing. Um, Now, when it comes to, because our point is that we're talking about constructs and cyborgs and things like that in our from modern day to far future thing. I hear you, Rickard, but yes, I hear you. The idea is that we have, how much of a population do you want? So, like, say, I don't know, a few dozen won't really affect society. A few thousand will get a lot of people's attention. Tens of thousands to millions becomes its own culture in and amongst itself. And um, it's possible, it's very possible that, there would there be human beings that might adapt themselves to acting or portraying themselves as artificial beings as opposed to the other way around? Would human beings prefer the artificial beings in their world to dress and look like, okay, do we want C3POs and just metallic beings walking around, or would we dress them in clothes, or prefer them to dress in clothes? Would we be weirded out that they start dressing in clothing and wearing makeup and wigs and things, and we're just like, please don't do that. Like, be yourself. Please don't take the wig off, C3PO. It doesn't look good on you, I mean, would we want them to have facial features? And you know, yeah. Yeah. Rico says, adapting is making an Android shell that looks like you but functions according to the Android needs. Yeah. Boom. I hear you, Ricker, and you are absolutely right. On one hand, to make androids fit into humanity, we might want to give them humanistic features and behaviors. Uh, but on the other hand, it might weird a lot of people out. Like, listen, you have no reason to go to the bathroom. Why are you excusing yourself to go to the restroom? Right? Well, I thought it would make you comfortable. It's not. It's not making me comfortable. Please sit down. I have no need to sit down. Fine. Stand there while we have dinner. That is what I am doing. You're standing over me. Have a seat as you wish. No, not as I wish. I want you to sit down because you want to sit down. I do not wish to sit down. Oh, Jesus. Fine. Okay. It's a social norm to sit down. Like these are these little subtle things that I think are fun. I think would be hilarious to play with and fun and kind of and have it with it a little bit of a darker tone to it, because it's like I remember in school trying to write out the instructions to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich to an alien race that comes to Earth, right? It's explaining the nuances that we take for granted and saying, oh, well, the one set of nuances, don't worry about it. But the other set of nuances, it really weirds me out if you do or don't do these certain things. And those rules would change not only from location to location or faction to faction, but each society and habitat would have their own rules and regs, unspoken rules and regs, all the way to each individual, right? Is it impolite for an android not to hold the door open when you walk through a door? The android's like, well, me holding the door open for you makes me feel like I'm your servant. And the human's like, no, dude, it's just polite. And the android's like, well, what's the difference? Well, there is a difference. Okay, explain the difference. I can't explain the difference. Well, the android's like, well, fine then. I'm not holding the door open for anybody. I ain't your slave. Screw you. Walk through the door. I mean, that's a real thing. Yes, Dead Man, there is going to be a second season of Altered Carbon, so that means we can rub it in Rickard's face. I'm picking with you, dude, because I'm not saying I don't agree with you. I'm saying that, yeah, because there's plenty of things that I have that I'm just like, why did they do that? I'm not defending the choices. I'm saying I'm defending the ability to have the choice. I'm not defending the choice itself, right? Sometimes execution isn't always that good, right? Yeah, I hear you, Rickard. Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad either, but I know you're like, wait a minute, where'd this character come from? And I hear you on that. Jenny says, I think individuality is a vital part of being human. Even if you are in a synthetic body, you still have the need to project individuality, which could, I wonder if like painted on colors might be an individuality thing. Voices, maybe even doing body modifications, mechanical body modifications might be a thing that these androids perform. Yeah. I think I absolutely hear you. No, and I completely agree with you on that fact too. Derek Swearingen, hi there, Derek. First time tuning in. Interesting discussion. Since we're chatting about androids, a little late tuning in, so forgive me. No forgiveness needed. I think we can look at Star Trek, and Star Trek is very well known for doing the whole data versus data conversation, right? No, Derek, you're always welcome. And yeah, this entire week we talked about constructs and golems and things. Today just happens to be Future Friday, so you're always welcome here, dude. But yeah, Star Trek, of course, did whole themes with data and is he human or not, and humor and a personality chip and all that kind of stuff, right? And of course, in the Federation, they here's this single individual who's being embraced as a member of their crew, but at the same time, of course, Data's wearing clothing and he's got a pet, his pet cat Spot and that kind of thing, and often has conversations with the crew about what it means to be human and being a little bit confused because we are we are complex individuals. We hold in ourselves a lot of hypocrisy, and we embrace the hypocrisy of ourselves, right? We love certain things and hate certain things, and they could be completely related to each other. You know, a you could take religion, for example. A mechanical being might look at all the religions and go, I found like 98.7% similarities between all your world religions. Why do you hate each other? And of course, you're going to get somebody raising their fists in the air and being like, what the hell are you talking about? I hate them and they hate me and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with humanity. Why do you guys hate each other? You're like 99.99% genetically similar to each other, right? From a mechanical being's point of view. Artificial being, as opposed to the humans that, we're like, oh, you look a little bit different from me. I think I'm going to flay your flesh. Yeah, Janny says at the very least you'd have a custom AR appearance. That might be a temporary a temporary fix, meaning like the human who's downloaded in their brain inside of a mechanical body might have maybe like an overlay of sorts, an augmented reality appearance, meaning like maybe there's a little hologram that they're able to project of their true self, or at least the image that they want, the humanoid self, maybe on their chest or the palm of their hand or something. Or in a high-tech world, maybe everyone has augmented reality, so when you see a mechanical being, they can just project what their idealized form. There may also be virtual realities in which the artificials could go into, so that they can, like, oh, I'm glad I'm off work now. I can go to the beach, right? And maybe you just have a mojito on the beach, sitting in front of the setting sun, but the sun never sets. It's just the same, it's the same beach you sit on and the same breeze and such. And maybe that just gives you it's like a vacation from your body. Derek says there were quite a few episodes where Commander Data was the focus, and they delved into whether or not androids had a place in Starfleet. And of course, if we're talking tabletop role-playing games, that may be an issue in the world, right? Do they have a place? Are there people protesting that place? Are there politicians and such working the machinations to get these artificials out of Starfleet or whatever it is you're working with in your tabletop game? I'm sure there would be. Whether now how powerful of their pull is politically might be an issue. There might be criminal elements working behind the scenes. Maybe these artificial beings are like really, really good law enforcers, and the criminals are like, we don't need them to be soldiers and policemen. We need to get rid of them. How about we start backing the people that have a philosophical desire to get rid of them, and the criminals are like, yeah, we can start giving them money. And so maybe the ones who have a philosophical desire to get rid of them are being used by criminals to politically start cutting out their rights and privileges and things of that nature. Especially since maybe a lot of the mechanical beings may have access to things that a normal human being wouldn't, right? If the mechanical beings are part of or can link into a hive mind, maybe they limit that ability. If they're able to perfectly record conversations and things, maybe they start getting rid of, well, we're going to have to put a restraining bolt on you because you can see into the infrared and ultraviolet, and you can also hear high and low frequency sounds, and that's pretty much like spying on people, so we're going to have to limit you. And the AR officials being like, wait, don't put that on my chest. Damn it. Yeah. Pillar says, don't start bringing facts into the discussion. Sorry about that. Tesla Ranger says, it's a good thing the Enterprise self-cleans. Note that there was no litter box in Data's quarters. Data's like, I don't smell anything. Everyone walks inside like, ooh, Data, you might want to, oh, you smell like the cat lady. which may be possible. It's like would an artificial being might recognize that they do smell like urine, but might not be bothered by the smell. It's like, no, I recognize it. I don't know. It doesn't bother me any. Pillar-ist says, I know next to nothing about Star Trek. I kind of know who Data is and what the Borg are, but any details are lost on me. You don't need to know the details. Just that they are both artificial beings. One is going through the process of being accepted or somewhat not accepted into the main storyline, and the others are a hive mind group of artificial beings that want to assimilate all other races, all other biological beings. That's all that is. Deadman says in Altered Carbon, Takashi Kovacs was out for 250 years. I get that he was out for 250 years, but a lot of time goes by in 250 years. You would have thought things would have been a whole lot different than it was in the past. But I get it. I get the idea. I mean, it's a great storyline. Oh, I wake up and, imagine you running a game where you're like, everybody make a character. Great. Okay. You wake up and you realize that you're not in your own body any longer, and it's been 250 years. Right. So, yeah. Pillar says, one of my major plot points is about a city in which mutants, augmented people, etc., are put into slums outside the city walls. Cue riots, hatred, propaganda. Yeah, that would be a thing. Or at least a portion of the population that would definitely be a thing, with people living outside cities and the proper folk living behind walls to protect themselves. Now, it's a possibility that, the protected people might think the artificials are and the mutants are like lesser than, but you can flip the script on that as well. Tesla Rangers of Star Trek is 300 years in the future. Yeah, and a lot of us, and of course us as role players, and a lot of us in modern day that are futurists are rethinking the idea of like what would happen in 100 years to 300 years. So yeah. Now, it's possible. This is a weird thing to think about, but it's possible that the glitterati in your world, the nobles, the rich folk, the people at the top of the social totem pole would I'd be dead probably. I don't know. There's a lot of futurists that are thinking that we may crack the code on functional immortality. Who knows? Who's to say? I know at my age, I'm on the cusp of whether functional immortality I might hit that point. I'll be 100 years old in 2070. So you guys need to get working on this. So stop playing role-playing games. Get to working on keeping me alive, right? But in all seriousness, the opposite way we can go with artificial beings is that the people at the top of the totem pole might themselves hoard the artificial body technology so that they themselves can live forever. Either downloading themselves into the bodies, and their humanoid bodies. Human bodies are like in little fluid-filled creches or something, or they might be like Terminator, the original Terminator, where their skin on the outside looks normal and human, but their internals are completely artificial so that they live forever, but the biologics are just like the lesser folk. That's a possibility as well. Derek Swearingen says the Borg are a great discussion point when it comes to TT plot points. Don't know what that refer. Tabletop plot points. Okay. It raises an interesting ethical question as to whether or not it is right or good to wipe them out when it is their means of reproduction, when assimilation is their means of reproduction. Yes. Thank you. You caught me right at the moment I was saying it. Yeah. So, but you are absolutely correct, right? The Borg is like, oh, we want to assimilate you, and the rest of the population, let's presume, let's get away from Star Trek for those who are unfamiliar with or don't even particularly like Star Trek. But if you have a group of artificial beings that are like, oh, we are a hive mind, and in order for us to reproduce, we want to assimilate you, your brain, your history, everything about you to be pulled into our greater collective. And in their point of view, from their point of view, they may be thinking that for them it's not harmful, right? We love your history, we love your personality, we want to absorb it. And everyone else is like, wait a minute, that's not right. Now, of course, forced assimilation, in a free world, in a free country, there, free intergalactic society, you may be thinking, listen, you can assimilate all you want as long as the people are voluntarily being assimilated. But you are absolutely correct. If that's their way of reproduction, I mean, it would be like an alien race that reproduces through parasitic or symbiotic methods, right? If my alien race has to deposit an egg down your throat and grow through being chest bursting, we might have some problems, even though that's your way of reproduction, So yeah, artificial beings that are, and there might be a fear, especially if I love the idea of humanity being our own aliens. Like we don't meet the Borg from some other far off galaxy. The Borg may be from a far off galaxy, but humanity went there and came back, right? Or maybe human beings have decided. And who's to say that once you are assimilated, that you're like, wow, this is great, I love being assimilated. Now it could be maybe they're messing with your pleasure centers of your brain, or you may go, so you took my brain, but I get all of you guys inside of me? That's sweet. I didn't know I would know all these things. So you could have a group of a faction of your setting where the Borg assimilation styled hive mind artificial beings may be a real thing. And a PC that comes from let's take this back around into back to Dungeons and Dragons, right? You could play a high-tech character who has a warlock patron, and the warlock patron may be all of the race that they come from, right? I'm just a small section of a larger confluence of other intelligences, and it's like, yes, I'm an individual because you're looking at me as an individual, but really I'm part of a collective, and that'd be kind of cool. I'm sure there'll be plenty of maybe a planet of artificial beings. Of course, we've seen before where one artificial being leaves a planet as an emissary to an alien race, but you find out that one small artificial being, brilliant as they are, is like, no, I'm just a small cog in a big wheel. My whole planet is a giant computer, It's like, ooh, yeah. Yeah, Pillar says you could throw in some cult aspects to the Borg, like feeding alone is a scary world. Come join the Borg. Or feeling alone in a scary world? Come join the Borg. And which, true, if they're in your world, like you said, like make it cult-like, they might not be scary in the classic sense of we need to go to war with them. Could you imagine like the classic going into the airport and you see like groups of the Borg passing out flyers like, join us. Yes, join us. You will feel good. Yes, you will feel good. And people are like sidestepping them with their bags and stuff like, please don't talk to me. Stop handing me flowers. I pick, but that'd be kind of cool. You see like a collective of like 8 or 9 of them, and what a great way. Wouldn't it be cool if a player character gets there, like they just get their body wrecked. They're you guys are rolling dice, and the PC gets blown away, and they're like, instead of the classic, we're going to rebuild them. He's like, no, I'm just going to play another Borg, and like, that's right, you are part of the Borg. All right. I guess we've come to the hour mark because my cats have realized that at the hour mark they're supposed to fight each other. Sorry about that, guys. Named by the namer. What's up? The human body is a collective. If you take the opinions of, if you take the opinions of your various intricate body parts, I would say that yes, I believe it's Pelora that has a setting in which the entire setting is various pieces of a biological body writ large. Rickard says, seems like the universal brotherhood. No thanks, I don't like bug spirits. Yes, very much so, very much like a hive, like insect hive or something like that. I suppose you could say the cats just laughed. I've got 3 of them. 2 of them don't like each other for some reason, and I'm not exactly certain why. Oh, all right, guys. As usual, we love to derail the show. So we've come to the end of our talk about constructs, and we didn't even talk about drones, but whatever. Constructs and cyborgs and synthetics and that kind of thing. Yeah, a piece of the setting is just one complex outside agent. Yeah, exactly. So, guys, if you are unaware, first of all, everyone have a great day. So let me start that out. Have a great one. Derek, thank you for joining in. For those who don't know, I'm a number of things. Sometimes an idiot and a long talker, but specifically, I am a contributing writer to Critical Hit Publishing. I have a series of books with Critical Hit Publishing known as the Cinematic Environs. Myself, Alex, Rob, we write for Critical Hit Publishing. We're on Drive Through RPG. That's all down listed below. This show is the audio is simulcast through Fantasy Grounds College. So if you prefer Discord and you want to just hear the audio, and sometimes you're like, oh, I just want to post this link and I can't do it through YouTube. You can do it through Discord over there as well. We're in the boiler room down on the bottom, left in the bottom. And what else? We got these old episodes are in SoundCloud, or I'm uploading them a little bit at a time. Anyway, so there's a podcast version of this show. All those other things. There's even an email. I'm thinking about reading out some emails as well. So you can contact me through email. It's dbjkarate@gmail.com. The email is actually listed in the SoundCloud. Maybe I should put it in my other notes or something like that. But yeah. Oh, that's right. There's also the Android series, Dark Matter. Thank you, Dead Man. I bet we could probably find like 100 Android things. As a matter of fact, the YouTube channel Dust has a ton of stuff that deals with androids, and I think even Black Mirror has an episode or 2, but I can't think of which one it is, and I don't know why my mind's blanking on it right now. But anyway, guys, everyone have a great one. Thank you, Derek, for popping on in. Don't be afraid to do so. I'm not sure where you're at, but it's hella early here in the States. So if this is an appropriate time for you to take part and jump in and pop in a couple comments, please feel free to do. And of course, I look good because of everyone else. They make me look smarter than I am. So I want to thank everybody for joining me. Next week, our weekly theme is dreams. So we take hey, Pelora, take care. Have a great one. You guys already know this, but for those who don't, we take one theme and we run all week with it, an hour a day, 5 days a week. And we subdivide that theme. So Monster Monday, we have a Discord Tuesday where we kind of talk game mechanics, World Building Wednesday, where we build a world around that theme, Third Pillar Thursday, which is a third pillar of gaming, is for exploration. We talk about the environment. That's one of my favorite subjects, as your self-appointed third pillarist. And then, of course, we have Future Friday, where we take that theme and go out into the intergalactic world. So everyone, thank you for joining me, and have a great one. Thank you. Bye. Bam.